I think it's absolutely disgraceful of JD's to come out and criticize Mark Breland for throwing in the towel in the Wilder Fury rematch. A few months ago, we saw Patrick Day lose his life in the ring after taking a similar type of beating to the one Wilder took against Fury. As much as Deontay Wilder is an idiot of a man, I don't want to see him get crippled. As much as he's talked about catching a body in the ring before, I don't want to see him get killed. This is a sport. I don't want to see life and death in the boxing ring. It happens from time to time. It's tragic. I don't want to keep seeing that. Yeah, I know it's going to happen, but obviously I want the relevant parties in boxing to try and minimize the fatalities and serious injuries. And one of those relevant parties is the cornermen. They can help to minimize tragedies in boxing. And that's what Mark Breland was doing. I mean, people talk about, oh, Deontay Wilder's this tremendous puncher. He's never been beaten up the way he was in the Fury fight before. He was weakening by the second. He never even came close to hurting Fury in that rematch. This was a different Fury than he fought first time around. Way stronger. Totally different style, totally different tactics, putting it on Deontay Wilder, not giving him a second to breathe. Wilder couldn't get any punches off. Fury was too technically good for him. His jab was too good. His range control was too good. His defense on the front foot was too good. You could literally see the energy draining out of Deontay Wilder with each round. Bleeding from the nose, bleeding from the mouth, bleeding from the ear. Likely a perforated eardrum. Messing up his balance completely, and he's never had great balance to begin with. What the hell do you want? Yeah, Wilder's going to say, oh, you should have let me continue. Fighters sometimes need saving from themselves. Far too many brave cornermen in this world. Mark Breland, being a former fighter himself, he knows what can happen to you in the ring. He's seen tragedies over the years. He's seen friends of his end up in a very, very bad way. He didn't want that happening to his fighter. I applaud Mark Breland for actually giving a damn about Deontay Wilder. Unlike JD, who say, oh, he shouldn't have stopped it. Are you mad? We don't want to see another Patrick Day in the ring. Let Deontay Wilder live to fight another day. Yeah, his pride is going to be hurt. Better that his pride is hurt than his brain is injured. If there's one person who Team Wilder need to retain, it's Mark Breland. Even if they don't retain him as head coach or assistant coach, they need to keep him around because he cares about the fighter clearly from his actions in that Fury rematch. He cares about the fighter. Deontay Wilder, as I've long said, is a very, very foolish man. He's not the sharpest tool in the box, not an intelligent guy at all. Hopefully he has enough intelligence to understand that Mark Breland was the one guy who was working in his best interest, the one guy who actually cared. So he did absolutely the right thing. Wilder was done. Fury wasn't making the mistakes necessary for Wilder to be able to catch him, and Wilder didn't have the strength anyway. He didn't have the balance to be able to get a shot like that off. And this was a stronger Fury than last time. So the Wilder fanboys out there are reaching for excuses. They bought into this absurd idea that Deontay Wilder was somehow invincible in the heavyweight division. We've seen it time and time again over the decades, when George Foreman was around in the 70s, when Mike Tyson was around in the 80s and 90s. These big punchers get built up as immovable objects. But over the decades, if you follow boxing for long enough, you'll realize that there is no such thing as an invincible fighter. Every dog has its day. And even if you didn't predict Fury would destroy Wilder the way he did, and I certainly didn't predict that, I've said all along that Deontay Wilder is going to lose. All the top heavyweights are going to lose, and I say that because of what I've seen happen in the past. Fighters who get built up as invincible and they get taken out. far more skilled punchers than the likes of Deontay Wilder have lost. People like Mike Tyson. And if he can get taken out, no reason Wilder can't. Yeah? So these Wilder fanboys, either they were ignorant to heavyweight boxing history, or they just didn't have enough respect for it. Because those who refuse to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And the Wilder fanboys reaching for all these excuses, they are more concerned with their own pride and their own bruised egos than they are with Deontay Wilder's health. These people are scumbags. Yeah? Mark Breland, applause to that man. He has said a lot of nonsense, and Mark Breland is guilty of gassing Wilder's head up, truth be told, and helping to fill Wilder's head with a whole heap of nonsense. Mark Breland is guilty of that. But one thing he's not guilty of is just sending his fighter out there when it's obvious he can't win. He's not guilty of sending his fighter out there to get seriously damaged potentially. He actually showed that he cared. So big up Mark Breland for that. And anybody who disagreed with Mark Breland's decision, you should be ashamed of yourself. Seriously. So, I'm out.